welcome to today's episode. Just a couple of minutes before 3 o'clock here on Thursday, June 3rd. As you know, I was not the Vax-Million winner again, although it did hit me this morning. Maybe you know. I could just Google it by the time you'd let me know, since you're not listening to this live, and I'm recording now, and you get it when you get it. And I do thank you for getting it. And we will take suggested topics if you'd like to request them. You know, it's easy to track me down on Twitter or Facebook, Instagram, whatever it may. Do we have to register each week, or once we've submitted into the system, into the matrix, then we're in the running? Because we got 3 more chances to win that $1 million. Jonathan Carlisle, we heard last night around 7:35 that he was a winner. Our very own Toledoan, I guess he works in Amazon. He missed the governor's call, but then called him right back. And he seems like a really good dude. Everybody in the local media seemed to have tracked him down sometime early in the evening, not too late. Got some quotes from him. Seems like a humble guy who wants to buy a house, pay off some bills. I guess I'm friends with and had a little bit of a dialogue with his girlfriend, Angela. And so I wanted everybody else to talk to Jonathan first, all the local media, maybe get him on Denny's show or anything like that. And, you know, if not, fine. Sometimes people just, like Naomi Osaka, sometimes people just want their anonymity, even though you can't be, as we found out with this Vax-A-Million, weren't going to be able to remain anonymous. But before Jonathan shut down his Facebook page, I saw that he's a bit of a nerd. He likes some of our nerdy things. So I sent a message over to Angela. I was like, you guys have an open invite to come on the podcast. Would love to have you on. Yeah, we can talk about winning $1 million, blah, blah, blah. Tell me how much you actually get, taxes taken out, how are you going to spend, blah. Let's talk about Star Trek. That's very niche, and so is today's episode of the podcast and guest. It's Jake Mercer. I came across Jake, maybe about 3 years or so ago, because about 3 years ago, we were getting ready for the World Cup, like the big World Cup, the one that the U.S. missed out on, but it's always still a big event, and we have a pretty passionate soccer community around here. And maybe at that time, the Claddagh was still open, or maybe it closed by that time. I'm not sure. But I came across Jake and met Sean Hoover. Sean does Full 90. We'll talk about where that is in today's time with Jake. But Jake is a part of Toledo Villa FC. We've got some local soccer right here over at UT. They're a deal. They're on the pecking order of soccer in the country. And I know for decades it's been American soccer is going to be something one day, and it kind of finally is. And if you saw any news websites over the weekend, you saw who and why American soccer is a thing. And we'll get into the weeds a little bit here, but with some players and why we should look forward to the World Cup next summer. But there's also some other things to keep an eye on. Jake knows his soccer. I appreciate him coming on. And also, he's a city planner for Findlay. So we don't talk too much about Findlay on the podcast, but there are some things to get into with that as they are growing and emerging, just like we are here in Toledo and the surrounding areas. Let's welcome in Jake Mercer. After nearly 3 years, I finally get to talk to you again.
Yeah, I know. It was right before the 2018 World Cup. You had me and Sean on.
Yep.
Which was a fun tournament.
It was. So, are you still doing City of Findlay stuff? City planning?
Yep. I'm down in Hancock Regional Planning Commission. We do a bunch of planning projects for the city and the county. City Planning Commission, kind of some government bureaucracy stuff. But in the small spare time I have, I try to devote to volunteering and helping out in the soccer community. So
since we last left things 2.5, almost 3 years ago, what's been happening here locally with the Toledo soccer scene? I know we kind of lost a year with COVID stuff, but have things grown? Have they stayed static? Tell me what's happening.
So, like you said, we kind of had a lost year there. But now in the off season, we actually had some exciting news with Toledo Villa FC, our local semi-pro, pre-professional team. They made the jump to a new league the USL League Two. This is if you kind of equate it to the Major League, Minor League Baseball equivalent. This is a summer collegiate league, kind of the equivalent to like a single A baseball type of a league. They specialize in housing collegiate players over the summer, giving them a place to play during their college off seasons, basically.
Is it mostly local or regional college players, or do they come from all over the country?
Yeah, so we've got kind of a great mix of local players. We've got 10 local guys. There's a group of, there's 5 of them that are from Bowling Green State University that have local ties. Joey Akpanuno, Nathan Masters, Eli Shope, Cale Nichols, Brendan Graves. These guys played at Perrysburg High School, St. John's, Northview. We got a couple guys, Colin Clark, who is a former St. Francis guy. We've got a couple guys from Anthony Wayne. So kind of all over Northwest Ohio. This is gave us a good core of local talent, and then we've brought in some international and top collegiate talent from the area and kind of all over the country, really. Our head coach, Matt Johnson, he's a Lourdes University coach, and his assistant, Tyler Brock, is from University of Northwest Ohio. So they had some good connections with the NAIA programs kind of all over the country. And we've been able to bring in some of those guys to help sprinkle in with the local talent that we had. So
sorry, forgive me if I bounce all over the place today. So what high school has the best soccer program in the area?
Kind of rotates around. St. John's has been a traditionally good school. Recently, again, Joey Akpanuno, Cale Nichols, they both ended up going to BG. Other years, it's Anthony Wayne has had a good program. Zach Mocha, who's with us, he ended up going to Duquesne University out in Pittsburgh. Perrysburg punches above their weight every once in a while. Northview is usually good. So it kind of depends on the year, but we've got a lot of good programs in the area. Also, Ottawa Hills, they've always kind of been dominant at the D3 high school level. They've made it to a couple runs to the state championship. I believe 2 years ago they were in the state final. So they're another one that kind of punches above the weight of at the state level.
Tell me more about Toledo Villa FC. Where are the games? How can somebody follow it a little bit more closely?
Yeah, and this offseason I started volunteering for them. During the pandemic, I was not really doing much, and I just thought, hey, I run social media accounts for my men's team and some of the leagues that I've been doing. So I've been kind of helping out behind the scenes with that. So they had moved to the University of Toledo, Paul Hotmer Field. It's the women's stadium, just kind of in between the Glass Bowl and the hockey arena there on campus. It used to be a kind of a track and field type of a venue, but now they've added some seating, and it looks really nice and great surface, and just has been really good. Only slight problem that everyone's been dealing with is COVID restrictions, kind of limited capacity for the moment. So tickets aren't totally available for everyone, but we're still trying to pack it in as much as we can, and as restrictions loosen, we've been able to deal with that as it goes. So
the season has begun, right?
Oh yeah, yep. We've played 5 games so far. 2 wins, 2 draws, and 1 defeat. The first game of the season, we lost away at Flint City Bucks, who are the defending champions of the league. So they're a historic team from the league, who have graduated players onto professional level at MLS standards. A couple guys who have played at Columbus Crew in MLS. Guys might recognize some of these names like Lalas Abubakar, Eric Bruner, Steve Clark, goalkeeper, who played in Columbus for a while. Now he's out in Timber.
How you're still with me? Starting to get all fuzzy.
Yeah.
There you are.
Sorry about that.
How far away, and I know you mentioned like minor league baseball, major league baseball is always the easy analogy. How many levels away is MLS from Toledo Villa?
So this would be the de facto fourth tier.
Got it.
But USL itself has kind of 3 tiers of play. So the USL Championship, kind of the de facto D2, that was a league that people might recognize. FC Cincinnati played in it for a few years. They've been playing their games down in UC's football stadium before they made the jump to MLS. Then there's USL League One, which is the 3rd division, and then us at League 2 level. 3rd division and the second division are completely professional. The League 2 is that pre-professional, quote unquote, where you're getting a lot of these college guys looking to make the jump to the professional level after that. So
I know that we're kind of I guess we're in between 2 pretty rabid soccer hotbeds. You mentioned Columbus Crew. I'm going to guess that people are familiar with that because they've been with MLS, I think, since the onset, like 25 years or so ago. And I know they've got a rabid scene. Columbus, the Crew almost moved, and they kept them there. And I think there's a new stadium, so it's a great scene there. I know it's a growing scene up in Detroit. Is that Detroit FC? Did I get that one right?
Detroit City FC.
City FC. And they're in Hamtramck, right?
Correct. Yep.
They've got a pretty rabid fan base. So, how would you rate or talk about or brag about soccer interest here in the Toledo area, specifically, obviously around Toledo Villa, but just generally around the area? Whether or not people are interested, how they could follow it more, things that they don't know about. But is it a growing interest in our area?
Yeah, I think so. We've had. The Columbus Crew have been around since '96, so we've had a kind of big group of supporters who have been making trips down to Columbus for a long time. Now, Detroit City's close by too. You can make a little bit of a shorter trip up the road. But in terms of Toledo itself, with Villa, this is kind of giving people the opportunity to watch something locally during the summer months. And so I think the community's out there. It's just getting them to realize that this is something that they can do instead of having to drive, 2 hours, 3 hours to Columbus or Cincinnati or Detroit, to get that high level of soccer game. I
was thinking about this as I was trying to come up with questions and things for us to talk about. And the Champions League final just happened over the weekend, and I can only imagine tens and tens of millions of people watched it. It's probably the biggest match on the planet. And I remember I got into watching the EPL and some other leagues, I guess in the like 2008, 9, 10, 11. I'd wake up on a Saturday morning and, before college football came on, I'd watch some of the EPL games. And I always enjoyed the men's national team. And I'm wondering if watching leagues like specifically the EPL and some of the other big leagues actually became a deterrent from getting more interested in MLS, where you always want to have pride for where you live and your country. It's just not at the same level as some of the other leagues around the world. And I wonder if it's almost a bad gateway for people who you want to attract to soccer to watch the Champions League final, and you're not going to get anything near that like here in this country domestically, but the game is growing and we are getting better players and attracting talent from around the world. Is watching an EPL game a bad way to start getting interested in soccer?
I wouldn't say it's a bad way to start. I mean, everyone starts somewhere. I think with the kickoff times, a lot of times you're watching those games early morning on a Saturday or a Sunday. So it's not necessarily keeping you from having a game in the evening that you come out to locally. All of our games for Toledo Villa are typically Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, in the evening time. So, if you're looking for kind of a night out, where you get to jump around, chant, have a beer, that's a different type of experience than, watching on the television.
Sure. Sure.
So I guess it's a little different. And again, like you mentioned, the quality of play is, almost apples to oranges because of the amount of money that goes into the European game than here locally. But I don't think it's a bad way to start.
Sure.
Everyone kind of latches on to, the big teams, and then you kind of discover that you've got this local thing available, and you can actually be a part of it rather than, your once in a lifetime trip to Europe where you pop in for one game and that's it.
So how can
there's a little bit more ownership, ownership on the games.
How can people be a part of it? How long does the season run? And so the games are mostly on weekends, so that's really good. What's it cost to get into a game, and some other things that people can be involved with? Yeah,
typically the adult tickets, I think they run $10, and under, I want to say 18, I think, are $5 each. So again, easy pricing to get in. The season itself runs in the collegiate off season. So we started right about the middle of May, and it runs through about the middle of July. And then they have playoffs after that. So wrapping things up early August before the players have to report back to their schools.
Sure.
So with the playoffs, though, unfortunately, only one team from our conference gets to advance, and we're still kind of in the thick of things. We're in third place right now. The top team just lost last night, though, so kind of everyone's at this, they've won 2 or 3, tied a couple, and lost 1. So we're definitely still in the mix of things. If results go our way the next couple of weeks, we could be in with a shout at the end of the season.
Good. You mentioned, I think when you were here last time, we talked a lot about you playing and where people can get involved with that. So you mentioned you play. Where can people, because I see it not infrequently, people are asking for active things to do when I'm scrolling the Toledo Reddit page, and soccer is always one of the things that somebody brings up. So where can people play around the area?
Right now, things are still kind of picking up coming out of the pandemic. Some of the leagues that had been in operation have had to take a break, and then getting out of the pandemic, everyone's kind of taking things slow. So I think this fall we'll start to see more leagues kind of come back into play. There are 2 indoor facilities in town. One's Total Sports down in Rossford, and then the soccer center, they operate out of Maumee, and they have a Rossford dome. Those offer leagues in the fall and the winter, and I think that's kind of when we'll start to see people picking up teams again and kind of making it out into the world now that people are becoming vaccinated, and going from there. But yeah, even I took a year hiatus as trying to stay safe, and
Sure.
My wife's a teacher locally, so just trying to make sure everyone could be into work and all that stuff. So.
Are there any places that do pickup games, like any of the metro parks that you know about?
We have been doing pickup in the past. I think mostly we've been doing them at the soccer center now, actually, because their off-season rates are kind of nice. That's off of Conant there, Conant and Dussel. I can't remember the address off the top of my head, but they just do drop-ins on Friday nights, I believe, for the summer.
Is full 90 still a thing? Because
Yeah.
I think Sean pulled off of that. I think Sean had some personal things going on. So what do you know about full 90 these days? Because that was a great thing that was happening there, especially with all the big tournaments when we had in 18 and then in 19 with the women. It's a great place to watch. It is the, and then the Clada closed at the mall, so, and that was a great soccer bar. Is the Village Idiot's got to be the only soccer bar left in the area, right?
So actually, the full 90 was at the Village Idiot, but Sean ended up moving out. He's actually now at a place. It used to be the Paula Brown shop.
Yeah.
And now it's the Switchboard. So Sean will be out there with a full 90. I think they had their first event the next to last week of the season for the Premier League. They had an event, and then I believe they had a Champions League day out there too. So he's still kind of getting his feet wet, getting that location into everyone's brain after years of being at the Village Idiot. So
for sure.
He's definitely looking at the Euros this summer. The Olympics are coming up later for the women's national team. He's looking to host more events at that location. Then the other kind of big soccer bar in the area in Sylvania is Frogtown Johnny's. The owner there, Rob Kelm, he's been in the soccer community for a long time, coached at St. Ursula's, and kind of big into hosting events and watching soccer out there too. So those are two good options for you.
So I think we're going to start inching back into the time where the casual fan, maybe myself included, will get interested again, because you mentioned the Euros. That is this summer.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll be starting here either next week or the week after.
And I know I know some people will make the argument that that's a better tournament than the World Cup because there's less bottom feeders. Some of which might come from this continent in that tournament. And then we've got, I don't know where the U.S. is in World Cup qualifying. I think there were some adjustments this year, but we're going to ramp that up, especially. And it'll be interesting to see if the casual fan will get interested, knowing that the men missed it stunningly back in 2018, but they're much better this year. And like there will be expectations, as there always are, but they could actually meet those expectations, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Correct. And you mentioned the Champions League final. Christian Pulisic plays for Chelsea, and he was the first American to make an appearance in a final and win. So that was a really exciting moment for U.S. men's national team fans. Well, he's the first American male to win the Champions League. I believe Alex Morgan has also won the women's version. So definitely a big moment for U.S. national team fans. They actually play tonight. They play Honduras in a competition called the CONCACAF Nations League, which is kind of a in-between tournament between World Cups, where the teams from around CONCACAF play each other. So like Honduras, Mexico, Canada, U.S. They all kind of get together to see who's one of the top national teams in the region. So they have the sense I get from this year's team. Obviously, Pulisic will be in it, and for my entire life, for over 3 decades, almost 4 decades, we keep hearing, we're going to have an American soccer star, and it wasn't this person, and it wasn't Freddie Adu, and Landon Donovan kind of peaked out with what he was. Like, this dude is actually like the LeBron James of American soccer. It's legit, as you just pointed out. Not only did he win a Champions League title, like, he was an important part of that team as well. Like, he can put the ball on the back of the net. Yeah, we've got, I don't want to necessarily call it a golden generation, but we definitely have a lot of young players who have started off in MLS and who have made the jump early to Europe. So we've got Christian Pulisic at Chelsea. We've got a guy like Weston McKennie, is another center midfielder. He grew up at the FC Dallas Academy and is now at Juventus. We've got guys like Gio Reyna, went through at NYCFC and then made the jump to Dortmund, kind of like Pulisic, started up at Dortmund before making the jump to Chelsea. So we're seeing a lot of these young players getting opportunities with like Champions League level teams now, and they're actually contributing. And so they're all coming through together with the national team. And I think if we just nurture them correctly, things will be trending upward as we hit the World Cup.
What would you say? What would your expectations be? Even, I mean, we're a bit out from like real serious qualifying, but next summer we'll be here faster than we think. What would your expectations be for them from for this young group of players? I mean, hopefully we would really like them to make the tournament. I know
Yes.
that was the bar that we were stunned that they didn't cross the last time. We thought we had passed that stage of American soccer where we just get in all the time and then everything else is up in the air. But where would you put expectations for this team next summer?
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, I mean, step one is just making the tournament. I know they've kind of reworked qualifying, so it theoretically should be easier for the U.S. and Mexico to make it.
Did they expand CONCACAF qualifying? Is that what it was?
So they've kind of split up the last stage used to be called the Hex, where they had the top 6 teams play a round robin, home and home against every team. And the top 3 made it automatically, and the 4th team was they had to go through a playoff versus someone else from South America or Africa to try to make it, and it's strictly like a playoff. But now it's I'm trying to remember it correctly. I believe we've got like 10. I think it goes to 10 teams, and they split it into 2 groups of 5. And I believe Mexico and the U.S. are seeded. So we won't see them necessarily play each other in that final round.
But you know what?
Or no, I'm sorry. I was incorrect. So it's a top 8 teams. So a little bit easier to get to that 3rd round.
If they're gonna scuffle against Trinidad and Tobago and Panama, the likes of those lesser tier teams from this side of the planet, like they did 4 years ago, it doesn't matter. But I don't think that's going to happen this time around.
No, and I think you'll see some teams like Costa Rica. A lot of people saw them do really well at 2014 World Cup. They've had an aging golden generation, and now they're kind of phasing back out. You might see a team like Jamaica actually do really well because they have a lot of dual nationals who are originally from England who have Jamaican heritage that are getting capped now. So they kind of, the U.S. for years they've had this dual national pool of players that, some guys like John Brooks are born in Germany but have American parents, and so they qualified to play for us. So now Jamaica's kind of taken a page out of our book and really looking for those dual nationals. So you could see some countries like that pop up. I still think that the U.S. is the way with our group. They're kind of coming up together and they're really bonded, and I think there's a really good team spirit. And I think it's safe to say that we should be making the tournament. And once we get into the tournament, then it's kind of anyone's guess of how we do. What just making the tournament is getting you into that position to do well. And I think that we could pull off some surprises once we get there.
You mentioned that the players now that make up the core of the team and a little bit beyond that, they're contributors. They play at these high level clubs. I remember as things were coming along in the 2000s, you'd check out and say, oh, that guy transferred or whatever. He's in a big league now, or he bumped up in the Bundesliga. And then you'd only hope that they would play. Now these guys play, and it's a roster full of them. So you would hope that would portend better results in the World Cup. Not that that's the end all be all, but I remember 20 years ago the goal was in the 2020s for American soccer to be a top 8, top 10 thing, and it just never happened. I mean, in the same way that COVID sidelined the planet for a year, I guess you could say that whatever happened, all the nonsense with Klinsmann and trying to figure out U.S. soccer sidelined the country's soccer program for a good 4 to 6 years.
Yeah, for sure. And missing out on the World Cup is obviously a huge detriment to that young group that was coming through. Pulisic was kind of primed to lead the team into that 2018 tournament. So missing out on that experience and kind of that high level of game is not great. But at the same time, they're getting, at the club level, they're getting a lot of experience in Champions League and Bundesliga, Premier League, Serie A, La Liga. So these guys are contributing at a much higher level now.
It almost speaks to how good some of these guys really are, knowing that they didn't go through the World Cup tournament, even if they would have gotten blown out in 3 straight games. Being on that type of stage, being on that field with some of the world's best players gets you recognized, and they didn't have that. In fact, 4 years ago, it was pretty laughable and embarrassing that they didn't make the World Cup, but yet still all these dudes came through the U.S. soccer program and landed and started playing on some really good teams.
Yeah, and this is definitely everything kind of builds on each other, but the U.S. will be hosting in 2026 alongside Canada and Mexico, and if this group can really put on a solid performance in 2022, then that will bode well 4 years down the line when they have more time to gel, get some more young players into positions in Europe. And I think that when we host, we could be a top team at that tournament as well.
It would be great. It would be great.
Yeah.
What was this? What was I gonna ask? Oh, is next year's World Cup, is that still in Qatar?
It is, yeah.
And it's not air conditioned. Did they ever figure out the heat problem yet? Because I know they wanted to move it to a cooler time of the year, but that was going to conflict with other leagues and I think also the NFL.
Yeah, and there was some media rights issues along with moving it, but they did end up moving it in the end. So it will be a little bit later than we're used to seeing. So it'll be a kind of Thanksgiving to Christmas time tournament rather than the traditional summer tournament that we usually see. So they still, I think the stadiums are still air conditioned though. If anyone really is, interested in making the trip out, they will have air conditioning.
I know, like they were talking about like temperatures in like 120 degrees, and like people are going to die on the field, and they wanted to move the cooler times where it's only 90 something. It's still hot, but I remember that being a big thing, and I was disappointed. It must have been, it's 21, so 10 years ago when it was announced that Qatar got it, and it was such a surprise when we were really pegged to have that World Cup, and it showcased a lot of the corruption and questionable decision making of FIFA.
Yeah, a huge scandal with that voting process, which you hopefully don't see again moving forward. But at the same time, it's great that we'll be having it again in 2026, and I think it's kind of given us a little bit of a better runway to build some of this soccer infrastructure. So you would say, as we're moving up, a city like Cincinnati is considered to be one of the host cities for the World Cup, and that wouldn't have happened if the tournament if we had been the 2022 instead. Cincinnati started with a USL championship team about 5 or 6 years ago. Built a huge fan base. They were getting 30,000 guys in attendance. Now they have a new downtown stadium, kind of close to Over the Rhine neighborhood, near Washington Park. And it's going to be beautiful. And then they also, the World Cup, if they're held in Cincinnati, that would be at the Bengals Stadium. So it would be really cool to see a World Cup being played in the state of Ohio eventually.
For sure.
But, 10 years ago, if you had said, where are you going to host this, Cincinnati wouldn't have even been a consideration at all. So,
well, 10 years ago, if you would have told me that MLS would just keep expanding like they are, I mean, it's been growing like its own kind of virus or disease. It's just new team after new team after new team. And that's why it's somewhat disappointing that Detroit hasn't been able to get one yet. Some of these other cities have put on really great performances and have been right place, right time, right geography, but it's been a little disappointing, I guess, that Detroit couldn't get one. And I think that there were some stadium issues, like they wanted a soccer-specific stadium. But it would be great to see that right there.
Detroit's its own special case. The Detroit City fans are very much of this thinking of club over league. And so, if MLS comes there, they want to be involved with their own kind of ethos. And so, at the time, I believe it was Dan Gilbert and the Pistons owner,
Tom Gores.
Tom Gores, yeah. I believe they were both involved, and they had gotten the Ford Ford family kind of involved as kind of the stadium host, but kind of cracks were apparent. And I know fans on the ground weren't overly thrilled with the bid that they had put together to try to get a team. So maybe it's a small blessings that, they're waiting for the right opportunity to come. And it seems like Detroit City, they're building things from the ground up. And when they're in Hamtramck, they've renovated a local stadium that a high school uses with some public funding, and they kind of crowd funded their own stadium. So people, fans were able to buy into there was a bond that was issued. And so they were able to kind of raise the money themselves and almost bootstrap it their own way. So, if you go to a Detroit City FC game, you definitely get this like punk rock, we're building this ourselves. We don't necessarily have the billionaire owner here, supplementing our budget. So it's definitely an interesting vibe if you ever make it up to one of their games.
What was some of the conflict with MLS? They either wanted to be taken or bumped up to MLS. They didn't want like an expansion team put there. Was that some of the conflict?
Basically, there wasn't a direct link to the club that was already existing.
Got it.
And so the fans were like, well, we've built this over so many years. We want to be a part of it if we are going to go professional. So.
Last thing, and thanks for the time talking all the soccer stuff. It's been good to finally catch up as we kept missing each other. Since you are planning City of Findlay things, what fun things are happening in Findlay? Because we've obviously seen a lot of growth up here. What's happening just down 75?
Planning wise, we've got a lot of places that are looking to locate into Findlay. Recently, Peloton. They were moving to Wood County, but I believe Findlay was a candidate for that facility, and we just missed out. But there's a lot of businesses that are looking to relocate here, and we've been in discussion trying to make sure we're attractive to anyone who is looking to move here. So
what do you do to keep it attractive and make sure that it's modern and contemporary for businesses like that?
Definitely quality of life stuff. We've been working, a couple of years back, I was working a lot on, transportation alternatives. So we've been trying to build up our bike infrastructure and network around the city, trying to connect our park system together, trying to promote our downtown business community, making sure people are, kind of shopping local and making it an attractive place for people to relocate job-wise and have a good quality of life. And, being right down the road from Toledo also kind of makes it an attractive place too, because, we've got those amenities close by. And
If I was going to take a night down 75 or from whichever direction to hang out in Findlay, how would you tell me to spend the Saturday afternoon and evening?
Well, we just instituted our own Dora.
I saw that. Yeah.
We so downtown, hit up a place like Findlay Brewing Company on Crawford Street. You've got a kind of a speakeasy place right next to it. There's just a couple of different restaurants downtown that are available, and that's kind of what I would hit up.
Best place to get pizza in Findlay?
Ooh. We've got a place downtown called Dougie John's.
Okay.
That's where I usually hit up because I work downtown. But we also got a beer barrel out by the interstate too, which is also a good place to hit up.
Yeah, I've heard that's really good. When they popped up at Fallen Timbers, people had spoke very highly of them from other parts of the area, including Findlay.
Yeah.
So, good to catch up. Thanks for all the time. Thanks for putting Sean and Switchboard on my radar, because I had no idea about that. I guess the Facebook algorithm was not being kind enough to send that my way. But thanks for all the info and websites and Facebook stuff for Toledo Villa.
Yeah, ToledoVillaFC.com is the website. If you do ToledoVillaFC.com stadium.com/tickets. You can get the tickets ahead of time. The stadium's going to be paperless this year, so we won't be doing cash at the stadium or anything like that. So try to get your tickets before ahead of game time. Our next home game is next Friday. It'll be our return game against Fort Wayne FC. We actually had we played their first ever home game, which was quite the event. Mayor Kapsakavich came over, and he and Mayor Henry from Fort Wayne flew in on a helicopter with the inaugural game ball for the event.
That.
So it was a really exciting event to be a part of. Fort Wayne FC also has connections to the men's national team, to Marcus Beasley, four-time World Cup player. He's part of their ownership group. So he was there. Both the mayors flew in on a helicopter. And we actually came out with a 2-1 win, kind of spoiled the event for them. But it was a really good event. So they're coming up here next Friday in the return leg. We actually have a really good stretch of home games after that, I believe. So that Friday, we've got a game. The Sunday, we have another home game against I'm blanking on that one, but
no, don't worry about it. We're good.
But yeah, we've got a bunch of home games coming up in June. You can check our Facebook at Toledo Villa FC website. I also run a Twitter account for the team, Instagram. You can find us Toledo Villa FC at all those.
Awesome. Well, thanks for the time. It was good. It's been too long. I'm glad we were able to catch up and talk some soccer, and we've got a lot of it to talk about coming up, and people should not overlook Toledo Villa right here in our own backyard. So thanks for the time, Jake.
Yep. Thanks, Eric.
Take care, man.
All right. Take care.